Hi, my name is Kimberly. So, for our lesson 14 video reflection, organizational culture affects every part of the company. I think it affects every part of the company. It influences communication, employee morale, teamwork, leadership, diversity, motivation. Um, Many organizations say they value communication in their employees, but if your employee's not feeling heard or seen, that's not really reality. So prompt 1, focus on why leaders should seek employee feedback and what feedback about their success and challenges, and what should leaders do with that feedback they obtain. So what do leaders actually do with the feedback they receive? Employees are often the people that are closest to your day-to-day activities. They know the smallest things. While your leader might be involved, they typically know the big picture. So employees typically experience your workplace problems, your customer interactions, communication issues, your workflow challenges. They're always on the floor, on the base. They know what's happening. So this is important because that means your employees are experiencing and noticing your problems first versus your leadership. So why does your employee feedback? If employees feel valued and respected, the way to do this is that if your leader is actually listening to that feedback. Are they being included? Are they being appreciated? Are they being heard? Like if you are ignoring your employees and they're trying to help, that's going to lower your morale. That's going to lower your motivation, and that's going to show your employees that you don't care, so they're not going to care either. They're going to be like, okay, I tried to tell you that this is a problem. You didn't listen to me. I'm going to let it be a problem. So reason why feedback is important to accept is that employees identify with real problems. So think of inefficient systems, poor communication versus, like employees and customers, or employees and leadership. Scheduling issues, like are you understaffed? Toxic management behavior. A leader cannot fix a problem that they don't know about, and they're not going to know on the floor problems because they're not on the floor. That's why you should listen to your employees when they're like, hey, we have a problem. Feedback improves your engagement. Like if your employee realizes, oh, they actually took my feedback, let me keep telling them. Remember, because engagement means an employee feels emotionally connected to a company and they're emotionally invested in their work, the organization, and wanting things to succeed. So their feedback is going to be something that's going to better the company. Engaged employees typically work harder. They communicate better. They stay longer with the company. And that means a lower turnaround. Feedback encourages innovation. So if they see that you are listening to them and you took into account one of their feedbacks, they're going to be like, oh, let me pay attention to something more. What would make something better? Typically, employee feedback about something that's not going well, it means that they're trying to improve in efficiency. They're trying to improve morale. They're trying to make things better. No employee feedback is going to be like, oh, do this to make it worse. What leaders should do with that feedback? Asking for feedback means nothing if you are ignoring the feedback. Employees become frustrated with the company if you're not respecting their opinions and you're not getting back to them and nothing's changing. I think fake open door policies or fake open communication just feeds frustration and causes morale and causes issues long term. Leaders should communicate transparently, consistently. Leaders should explain what feedback was received, what will change, what will happen, and if they haven't already decided that, then they should take suggestions to fix whatever the issue was. It's important that leaders create a safe space. Things start at the top. If a leader is not creating a safe space, it's not creating constant, transparent communication, it's very hard for the small team members to do that. Employee feedback is important because it improves communication, trust, innovation, and organizational performance. Leaders must actively respond to feedback for all of these benefits to actually happen. So, our second prompt: why is it necessary or desirable for employees to understand how and why a company change is taking place? To what extent do you think this best practice is actually followed in the real world? So, why should employees understand your organizational change? Why do employees resist change? And how do companies actually effectively communicate? So, change creates uncertainty. Just because a change is good doesn't mean that everybody is going to be on board with that change. Uncertainty usually comes from fear, stress, and it leads to resistance. Employee and people in general handle change better when they understand what is happening. Why is it happening? How will it affect them? What are the goals? What are the end goals? One of the main reasons that like I said, it's important for employees to understand that change because it reduces the fear and the anxiety of the change. Employees often worry about job security, the workload changing, leadership changes. Lack of information causes people to create assumptions and for rumors to spread. And rumors are never good. Understanding helps to create the flow for acceptance, for having people support the change, commit to the decision, and help things to move more fluidly. So if employees understand and support the new technology, they're more willing to learn that new technology. They're more willing to listen when things are explained, and their acceptance leads to an easier adaptation and implementation. This is also important because employees need to feel included. So communication helps employees feel respected during this transition. They feel included often decreases the resentment and the resistance. I think people handle difficult changes better when they're informed, because informed means that they feel respected and they feel seen. So common problems about changes without an explanation or any information are more rumors, low morale, confusion, mistrust, raising resistance, even employee turnover. Like if they hear a change and they don't agree with it and they don't understand why it was done, people are likely to leave. So I think that even though this is studied and this has been proven, I don't think this is actually implemented as often as it should in the real world. Many organizations say that they're transparent, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Real communication is often inconsistent. Leaders often avoid difficult conversations. Others assume employees do not need the detailed explanations. Say fast-paced businesses, they just never get around to explaining things, or organizational priorities take the precedence over the communication with your employees. Another good reason why this happens is leaders rush changes and they don't prepare their employees. Say an example would be employees hearing like a major company update. They hear it through rumors, through coworkers, even through social media when the company makes a post about it. A lot of this can foster like mistrust in the company. Like you didn't think to tell us. Now, strong organizations and organizations that value longevity in their employees typically have better communication. They have healthy organizational culture. They explain decisions early. They answer questions. Like your leadership is connected Change management is one of the most important parts of leadership. So, although organizations may claim to value transparency, this is best practice is not always consistent in the real world, sadly. Our third prompt. Do you think that promoting a communal culture is compatible with promoting company diversity? Why or why not? So, what is this really asking us? Can organizations encourage togetherness while still valuing differences? Does strong company culture support or limit diversity? Can employees feel united without everyone being the same? Spoiler, yes. So, communal culture is a workplace culture focused on teamwork, collaboration, relationships, shared goals, and even emotional connection. Kind of like you're building a community, but at work. Now, diversity. Diversity means differences among people, say culture, age, race, gender. My position on this is firmly yes. Communal culture and diversity can absolutely be compatible and can happen at the same time. Now, unity does not require for things to be the same. Strong communities can still value diversity and differences. Now, why do they work together? Diverse perspectives often improve organizations. They improve creativity, which leads to improved innovation. Different experiences create stronger ideas, better problem solving, broader perspectives. They're more open-minded. Organizations often perform better when employees think differently instead of identically. So employees feel connected and supported when there's a healthy communal culture, because this also means that they encourage respect and teamwork, empathy, and communication. All of these qualities can help diverse employees feel welcome and included, which means that it helps maintain diversity. Now, even though I strongly believe that this can be compatible, there's still risks. Communal culture can become too conforming. Like some organizations pressure employees to fit in, and fitting in and being like means it's kind of like when you're in high school, you have to do everything the same, or else you feel like you're an outcast. Diversity weakens if employees feel like they have to hide those differences. Now, an example of the way this happens is, like I said, employees feel like they have to act the same, communicate the same, or just avoid different opinions to avoid being the odd one out. Now, the best way to describe it is, I think communal culture only works with diversity when individuality is respected. If your individuality and your own person is not respected, then diversity isn't going to work, even if you originally were kind of the same. So I think the strongest teams are always going to be the ones with different kinds of people, and the people that are comfortable being themselves. I think it's important to be yourself and respect who you are and respect others' opinions. So companies with strong, inclusive cultures often celebrate different viewpoints, different backgrounds, employee experience. Communal culture and diversity are compatible with organizations that encourage both teamwork and individuality. Now, our fourth prompt and our last prompt. Do different cultures experience high power or low power distance in business as a reflection of their mode of political governance? So, power distance, what is it? Power distance refers to how comfortable a culture is with unequal distribution of power and authority. So, it measures how much people accept hierarchy and authority differences. High power distance cultures where hierarchy and authority are strongly respected, employees are less likely to challenge leadership openly. Now, common characteristics of this would be formal communication, strong respect for authority, clear organizational hierarchy, decisions made mostly by leadership. Now, low power distance cultures where equality and participation are valued more strongly. employees feel more comfortable questioning authority. Sadly, this is not the situation I'm in for my current job. So common characteristics of this would be, say, open communication, collaboration, trust, informed interactions. Employees are more likely to participate in decision making. A good example of this would be, say, a company is going through an issue. The manager coming up to their team and being like, does anyone have an opinion of why this is happening and how we can avoid this? And actually listening to their feedback. An example of high power would be same situation, but the manager doesn't even tell the employees that the issue is happening. They're just going to handle it. So I believe, yes, your political system influences your workplace power distance. So, say, government shapes culture expectations through authority, leadership, obedience, and participation. So, say your culture has an authoritarian government, they typically concentrate on power heavy in leadership with limited public interference. So this often reflects am I reading the wrong thing? Now, democratic systems encourage participation, discussion, individual rights. This is where employees may feel more comfortable expressing their opinions and questions in leadership. Now, even though I think your culture and your government and your type of influence can influence your power system and your power differences, it's not the only one. So say your history. What is the country's religion? Education, social values, and your family structures. Now, even though political systems influence workplace culture, they're not the only factor that's important. So some international companies struggle because leadership styles that work well in one culture may feel disrespectful or ineffective in another. A very informal leadership style may feel uncomfortable in a high power distance culture. I think this topic shows how important cultural awareness is, especially if you have a global international business. Or even if you have a team that works internationally, where a virtual team, people in different countries. Managers can't assume every employee from every culture view has the same authority and same communication. So success. So political governance often has an influence over culture's experience over if they have high or low power distance, but cultural traditions and social values also play a major role in this and how they shape the workplace attitude towards authority.